This is a very important video for this channel, considering that my profile picture is Daniel DeLeon, and for the longest time before becoming a Sorelian, I was a DeLeonist. The difference between Sorelianism and DeLeonism is very slight. The only difference is that Sorelianism provides a more complete worldview, whereas DeLeonism only sheds light on statecraft and particular issues. DeLeon kept himself to writing pamphlets and public addresses in the frame of orthodox Marxism, or a simplified form of Marxism, and he never really contributed much to theory besides describing the Socialist Industrial Union Republic, a form of prescriptive statecraft formulating what the rank-and-file cameral structure of the Socialist res publica would be. A contribution to socialist theory that Lenin had said was a unique and very groundbreaking contribution, something the likes of which hasn't been seen since Marx. While the Socialist Industrial Union model is a prescriptive model, it is also descriptive in a sense. Seeing as how in the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China and other scientific socialist countries, the representatives in cameral bodies often seem to represent the useful occupations of the land. While there might not have been a formal governance structure corresponding to this fact, the truth is the government of producers lives on in the form of the cadre party, where party deputies represent various technical and functional distinctions. The cadre party form is most certainly inspired by George Sorel, who laid out the organization of the syndicate deputies as being masters of their function, or technical discipline, even though, as he said, they might not be very good philosophers. A cadre party differs from a party of dilettante intellectuals and bureaucrats who are masters of no discipline or function. A cadre party, therefore, is the embodiment of the government of the producers, in a political form rather than a purely economic and administrative one. While DeLeon had no known connection to Sorel, his model for Socialist Industrial Unionism is a formalization of the government of producers, which Sorel had talked about. So with this introduction out of the way, we'll begin with the biography of Daniel DeLeon. Daniel DeLeon was born on December 14, 1852, on the Dutch-owned island of Curaçao, off the coast of Venezuela. His father was a surgeon in the Royal Netherlands Army, and was a colonial official. While DeLeon was raised Catholic and spoke Spanish as his first language, his family ancestry is believed to be Dutch-Jewish of the Spanish and Portuguese community, as his Spanish surname, DeLeon, comes from the medieval kingdom of Leon. DeLeon meaning from or of Leon. He attained his formal education in the schools and universities of Europe in the 1860s and 70s. In Germany and the Netherlands, he studied medicine and was part of the student corps, however did not graduate. In Europe, he learned to speak fluent German, Dutch, French, ancient Greek, and Latin, as well as his first language of Spanish. In 1874, he would emigrate to New York with his mother and study at Columbia University, earning a Bachelor's of Law in 1878. Thereafter, he would live in Brownsville, Texas, as a practicing attorney. In 1882, he would marry his first wife, Sarah Lobo, whom he met on one of his return trips to Curaçao. When they met, she was 16 and DeLeon was 29. Interesting. DeLeon took his first wife to New York, where he had a developing law practice. He maintained his law practice until 1884, as he was more interested in pursuing an academic career. A prize lectureship was created in 1882 that he wished to pursue, and as a qualified candidate who was a graduate of Columbia University, a member of the Academy of Political Science, and to have had at least read one paper before the Academy, he received his first term in 1883, where he gave lectures on the subject of Latin America and the influence of foreign powers in the region. He also published a paper in the Political Science Quarterly on the Berlin West Africa Conference. By 1889, however, he was not given full professorship, likely because of his political ties to Henry George and the United Labour Party. In 1887, his first wife, Sarah DeLeon, passed away. In 1890, he joined the Socialist Labour Party, becoming editor for its newspaper, The People. His stature grew quickly in the party, and in 1891, 1902, and 1904, he would run for the governorship of New York, winning his best result of over 15,000 votes in 1902. DeLeon was a Marxist by the late 1880s and worked to divert the SLP from its Lassallean outlook. On an SLP agitation tour, Daniel DeLeon would meet a 25-year-old school teacher, Bertha Cannery, who was a member of a Bellarmineite group named the Christian Socialist Club. After a long-distance postal courtship, they would eventually marry and have 5 children. While DeLeon never made much contribution to theory, he worked to translate works from Marx and Engels into English. DeLeon would continue to make public addresses and newspaper articles while also being involved in union politics. He remained critical of groups such as the Knights of Labor and the American Federation of Labor, calling them the labor lieutenants of capital, who suppressed socialism and kept union activities restricted to collective bargaining. In 1895, after the SLP was driven out of the Knights of Labor, they would form the Socialist Trade and Labor Association. In 1904, he would, under the influence of the American Labor Union, attend the International Socialist Conference held in Amsterdam, and in 1905, under the American Labor Union, he would help create the IWW. His participation in this movement was short-lived, as he would accuse the organization of being infected with the anarchist bummery and lumpen elements. In arguing against Big Bill Haywood, Daniel DeLeon would advocate for the Union to unite with the Socialist Labor Party as a fighting element that would use the ballot to capture the state and transform Congress into an all-industrial union Congress of workers' representatives, while using the Union as a defensive force that would back up the party with economic power and de facto legitimation of power. Ultimately, the Haywood faction would win in the IWW, and the DeLeon rival Detroit faction would form into the Workers' International Industrial Union and dissolve in 1925. The purpose of unionism is multifold in the DeLeonist formula. First, it is to act as the shield of the workers in their daily toil, facilitating direct action and collective bargaining in the immediate, while also preparing the workers' dual power for a seizure and transformation of the state machinery in the future. The purpose of a political labor party in DeLeon's formula is to act as a revolutionary anti-political force. In this formula, the party is supposed to take hold of state power and transfer public powers to the workers' organization and disband itself as an entity to give way for the Socialist Industrial Union Republic. In 1896, during the 9th National Convention of the Socialist Labor Party, DeLeon referred to this two-line struggle as the sword and shield of the socialist movement. To carry the revolutionary spirit of the ST and LA into all organizations of the workers, and thus consolidate and concentrate the proletariat of America in one irresistible, class-conscious army, equipped with both the shield of the economic organization and the sword of the Socialist Labor Party ballot. The role of the party is, as said before, purely destructive and anti-political, while acknowledging the need to organize on political lines using a party of labor. In Socialist Reconstruction of America, DeLeon goes on an anti-governmental rant, almost akin to something from Ron Paul. Like the flimsy card houses that children raise, the present political governments of counties, of states, of the city on the Potomac herself will tumble down. Their place is taken by the central and the subordinate administrative organs of the nation's industrial forces. Obviously not the structure of the political movement, but the structure of the economic movement is fit for the task. To take and hold the industrial administration of the country's productive activity, the only thing worth taking and holding. Here he calls for the elimination of political governance and giving the role of governance to civil society. A very libertarian stance, although not with the civil society preferred by right libertarians who hold a utopian prejudice for outmoded capitalist social relations. Hawes from Infrared has said on numerous occasions that he desires a smaller and more efficient administration.
Well, I actually believe sovereign ownership of the means of production precludes two things. One, what Lenin calls, and what Marx actually originated in his 18th Brumaire, is the smashing of the state machinery, that we cannot simply lay hold of the ready-made state that exists, the insane bureaucracy that corresponds. And Marx actually talked about this to the capitalist society, but the state must be remade anew, simplified, made efficient, and to an extent, yes, minimalized, because it is the aspiration of communism to basically relegate the state to its bare necessities and for the eventual dissolution of the state, obviously, and into free association.
You're saying when absolute idealistic communism is people all just agreeing and working together or something?
No. There's still a centralized oversight of production, but it's what Friedrich Engels calls the administration of things and not people. So you have a centralized oversight of production, but the necessity of the forceful suppression of opposition, for example, disappears. And this is projected to be at the time when the material foundation of the state as an organ of class dictatorship withers away.
I can't think of anything more resembling libertarian Stalinism than an administration completely reduced to the central organization of industrial production, organized into various syndicates. Therefore, I concede my case. DeLeonism was libertarian Stalinism before Leninism even existed, and it was MAGA communism before MAGA even existed. Look to the works of Daniel de Leon, and you will find many treasures there useful for the communist movement in America.
Now, note this. Instead of a Congress of politicians who talk, and who scheme endlessly in the interest of the ruling capitalist class, we will have an industrial Congress representing the useful occupations of the land. And this will be a useful, functioning Congress. Its duties will be those of administering overall production. It will be to industry what the orchestra leader is to the orchestra. That is, it will be an integral part of production. It will decide such questions as how much is producible, how much is needed, how many tons of coal, how many millions of pairs of shoes, how many television sets, and so forth. Now, perhaps we'll make mistakes. Perhaps we'll elect the wrong people. Well, if we do, we'll recall them and elect someone else. You see, when you have a society in which the workers have collective control of things, mistakes like this can be corrected, and no great harm is done. And that is what socialism is. A system in which democracy is a living, vibrant reality. Now the question is, how do we get it? The twofold tactics for building socialism in America are, one, the socialist ballot, two, backed up by a real working class union, a socialist industrial union. The ballot is the peaceful and the civilized method. And our right to reconstruct society any way we wish is the fundamental law of the land. It's embodied in Article 5 of the Constitution. The socialist industrial union of all the workers is necessary to back up the right of the ballot and to have the power and give us the power and means with which to take possession and hold and operate the industries in the interest of all the people.
The point of the Socialist Industrial Union Republic model is to replace a completely outmoded system of administration, namely a landed constituent political regime. This regime, the parliamentary regime where its deputies are delegated in terms of professional politicians representing geographic constituencies, is partly the product of the landed gentry in Europe, and partly the product of the democratic renovation by the liberal bourgeois revolutions. There is a maxim by Sorel that the democratic political regime is the ultimate realization of the aims of monarchy, with the subjugation of civil society to the state. The syndicalist regime that Sorel advocated for knew no geographic constituencies, only syndicate deputies, leaving geographic constituencies to govern themselves. The point of the new republic, in the Socialist Respublica of Industrial Syndicates, is to disappear the landed political regime to the dustbin of history. In Socialist Reconstruction of Society, de Leon lays out the fate of the political state. The evolution from the capitalist system to socialism marks a revolution of first rank. The methods of the Socialist Republic will be methods that flow from its material framework. The latter is so diametrically the opposite of the capitalist social framework that the two methods will bear no comparison. Capitalist society requires the political state. Accordingly, its economics translate themselves into political tenets. Socialist society, on the contrary, knows nothing of the political state. In socialist society, the political state is a thing of the past, either withered out of existence by disuse, or amputated according to circumstances may dictate. For all that, socialism is the outgrowth of the higher development from capitalism. As such, the methods of the socialist movement on its march towards socialist society are perforce primarily dictated by the capitalist shell from which socialism is hatching. Seeing that capitalist economics translates themselves into politics, socialist economics cannot wholly escape the process. The constructive part of socialist economics translates itself into the formation that outlines the mold of the future social system. Another part of socialist economics, however, inevitably translates itself into politics. It inevitably takes that form that matches capitalist methods. Upon that plane, the socialist movement crosses swords with the modern ruling class, these to uphold, it to dislodge them from, and dismantle their robber burg. The Socialist Industrial Union Republic, therefore, is the realization of the administration of things and the withering away of the politics of persons. This model of industrial government also accomplishes other feats. Firstly, it locks out the landed interest out of politics, and the vast monopolist landholding interests would be rendered powerless. Secondly, it would effectively eliminate the need for taxes because a government of this type would effectively pay for itself. The only tax needed might be a land value tax as a part of a greater land reform project, which would pay for things like health insurance and education vouchers. Industrial government, therefore, would provide for a radically libertarian form of government that would remove the tax burden on civil society and concentrate and build up the forces of production. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow my Twitter at PTD2036. Once I get enough followers, I'm going to make a premium account and build a presence on there. So stay tuned for the next video, and peace.
Arthur, I have a new plan.
Dutch, I'm in the middle of praying to Allah. We gotta do this 5 times a day, remember?
Sorry, Arthur. I'll let you return to Saul once I tell you of this new plan of mine.
All right, Dutch, what is it?
We're gonna join Daniel DeLeon in the Socialist Labor Party of America, Arthur, and build a socialist republic comprised of industrial unions. The administrative organs of the productive forces of the nation will be the new government, Arthur.
Dutch, this sounds like a mighty fine idea, but what does this got to do with Islam?
You see, Arthur, in our post-revolutionary patchwork, I will be the Ayatollah of Saint Denis. Now, we join Daniel DeLeon in the SLP, you best subscribe to True-Dank if you know what's good for you. Again, it's part of the plan.